Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm so excited to be showing you Kathleen & Co.'s winter collection for 2025. First of all, I do want to give a big thank you to Kathleen & Co. for sponsoring this video. So while that means I am being paid to swatch and share these with you all, my thoughts and opinions are still 100% honest and my own, the same as with my non-sponsored videos. So as you can see, this is a pretty large 9-piece collection of shimmers and multichromes, all inspired by and named after a lot of punk, industrial kind of songs. At least the multichromes are, but some of the other shades are named after other 80s and 90s songs that Mia loves. So as always, I will save more of my thoughts for the end after comparisons. For now, let me just show you the swatches. The first shade we have is Cities in Dust, which is described as a light taupe base with a purple to pink shifting shimmer. I would say this has a little bit of a jelly leaning base. As you can tell from the first coat, it is pretty sheer. You do get a subtle wash of that taupey color and a lot of that glowy shimmer. It's very finely milled, so it kind of gives it this sheen, which I think is really pretty. It does build up pretty nicely in two coats where you can see it does obscure my nail line a little bit, but I did have a bit of a bald spot, I guess, near the left side, so I opted to do a third, and I really liked how this looked just because you get more of that color payoff from the base, which I'm not even a big fan of taupey shades. I feel like they can sometimes make you look a little dead or washed out, but I thought this one was pretty flattering, though maybe my bias is for the shimmer because I do really love that. Next up we have Severance, which is described as a murky olive green base with a glowy pink shimmer. I think I would say this also has a slightly jelly leaning kind of base similar to the last shade, and it wasn't really self-leveling. As you can see on the first coat, it is a bit uneven, though it did build up a lot nicer in just two coats. I think depending on your application, you might need a third, especially if your nails are longer, or if you just want to deepen the color even more. I didn't think it was necessary, so I just left it in two because I thought it was already deep enough. You still get a hint of that olive green, but I feel like the strong multichrome shimmer almost makes it lean a little brown in some angles. Definitely like a Prugly shade. Next up we have Symphony of Destruction, which is described as having a deep, murky base filled with a bronze to gold to green multichrome shift with added aurora shimmer. As you can see, this had a phenomenal formula, very full coverage, very highly pigmented on the first coat alone. Even though the base is described as being murky, I thought it was kind of nice. It almost has this dark, charcoaly purple sort of color, but obviously with the multichrome shimmer, that's just super bright, giving that strong yellow golden color head on that shifts to green in more extreme lighting. Definitely very shifty. I don't know if I would call this a Prugly, but it is very unique. Up next we have PS, which is described as a berry red base with a fiery copper to red to gold shifting shimmer. And yes, in case you were thinking it, this is a wintry sibling to Follow Your Dreams, which is the very popular polish pickup shade. So as expected, this had another phenomenal formula, just so smooth and easy to apply, very highly pigmented and very even coverage as well. It is still a little sheer on the first coat where you see some visible nail line, and even on the second coat too, so I did decide to show this in 3 coats, and hopefully you can tell that it does deepen and intensify the color a little bit, making it even more full coverage. I don't think it's totally necessary though. I really love this in just 2. The next new multichrome we have is Worlock, and this one shifts from fuchsia to orange to green. So there's no mention of the base, but to me it looks like it has a black, if not a very dark charcoal gray base. And just like the other polishes so far, it had another incredible formula, just so easy to apply, super even coverage as well, where it looked really great on the first coat, just a bit sheer, so you know, I wouldn't call it a one coater, but you could also just layer this over black for an easy multichrome mani, but on its own I think it's pretty solid in just 2 coats, and it is super color shifty as well. The next shade we have is I Still Believe, which is another shimmer polish. This one has a blackened violet base with a fiery red shimmer. You already know I loved this one. I'm always a sucker for a purple base with a red shimmer, and I love how deep this base was. It's more of a blue toned purple, or basically indigo kind of shade. It looks so stunning, so dark and mysterious, but the red shimmer just glows against the base so beautifully. And just like the other shades, it had a really great formula, and this one was easily opaque in 2 coats because it's so dark. I feel like the shimmer did also have a slight shift to orange and gold. It was just a little hard to capture on camera. Then we have Midlife Crisis, which is a blackened teal with aqua to green to blue shifting shimmer. So this is another multi-chrome. This one didn't have as even coverage as some of the others, so it's a little bit patchy looking on the first coat, but of course doing a second coat really helps even everything out and pretty much makes it fully opaque. Maybe if you look close enough in more extreme angles of lighting, you might be able to see a hint of nail line, but I think it's just so dark it doesn't warrant a third coat. Dare I say the base is a little too dark where you kind of lose the teal color, though maybe it is also just hard to see underneath all of the bluer multi-chrome pigments. So while this one wasn't as color shifty as the other multi-chromes, it still looked really beautiful and just like a moody winter blue. And the last multi-chrome we have is Harvester of Sorrow, which is actually a combination of different blue multi-chrome pigments to get this specific shade that you see here, which shifts from blue to purple to red in extreme lighting. And I would say the base color is a warm, deep, red-toned purple color. This had another great formula that was mostly even on the first coat. Maybe there were some light spots, but again, similar to the last shade, considering how dark this one is, it was pretty much fully opaque in just 2 coats. I loved how dark and moody this was while still being pretty color shifty. It is just such a perfect jewel tone purple for winter. And rounding out the collection is Close to Me, which is described as a deep red jelly base with a purple to pink shifting shimmer. So I was pretty surprised to read this was described as a red base because I see it as a very dark magenta kind of color. So I'm assuming it's the shimmer being this brighter sort of purple color that is affecting the color of the base, which is really interesting. Either way, I think it's definitely a very fitting color for the winter as well. It had another fantastic formula, a little bit on the jelly leaning side, but deep enough that I found it opaque enough for me in 2 coats. I also loved that red shift in more extreme lighting. And here is my thumb swatch collage for the winter 2025 collection. Overall, very dark and moody, but still colorful and jewel toned in a way. So I think it works great for the season. Moving on to comparisons, we're starting with Cities in Dust, and I immediately thought of Mooncat's Petals for a Narcissist because they pretty much have the same exact shimmer, but as you can see, the bases are very different, where Mooncat is a much lighter, ghostly kind of gray shade, and Cities in Dust is more of that warm taupey color. Next for Severance, I thought Fauve's Verdant Vision was going to be somewhat close, but the shade of green is a little different and the shimmer is also more purple instead of red. So here it is next to Mooncat's Jewel Beetle, which I think is a little bit closer, though Jewel Beetle is a true multi-chrome, so you will see that later in the comparisons again. Head on though, it does look like it has a similar shimmer, though it's a little bit more pink in Mooncat, and then you see more of that reddish orange, and it also has a much stronger shift to yellow compared to Severance, but the main difference is that green base in Severance. Next for Symphony of Destruction, I thought I could show this next to KBShimmers in a Pickle, which is a murky green kind of multi-chrome shade, but that has more of a true brighter green shimmer compared to the gold of Symphony of Destruction. So in a similar vein, I also had pulled out Mooncat Serpents of Eden, but that one's, if anything, closer to the KB than the Kathleen & Co., so I would not call any of these dupes. If anything, I think the closest shade that I have to a dupe is Glisten and Glow's New Jersey Pine Barrens, which was a previous polish pickup shade. So since that's no longer around, I think the Kathleen & Co. might be a good alternative. The main difference is the Glisten and Glow shimmer looks to be a little bit more sparse, you know, not as densely packed together as the Kathleen & Co. Or it just might be a slightly larger shimmer particle. And I would say the base color in Pine Barrens is a little bit deeper, almost like a murky brown green, as opposed to the deeper purple gray in Kathleen & Co. Next for PS, here it is next to Follow Your Dreams, which is the original polished pickup shade that this shade is inspired by. It looks like they have that same kind of golden shimmer, it's just the base color that's a little bit different, but on the nail, I feel like the shimmer color just looks a little darker in PS as well, likely because it's tinted by the deeper base. So that made me think of Lurid On The Prowl, which was also another polished pickup shade. I remember grabbing this specifically because I thought it would be a great fall-winter version of Follow Your Dreams, so it is much closer to PS, though I would say maybe a shade or two darker. This is 2 coats of each, so maybe doing a third of PS would make it more of a dupe. For a quick bottle comparison, here is Holo Taco's Private Villa, which is a dark hot pink red shade with a golden shimmer and flaky, but that's a little too bright. And lastly, here is Potion Polish's Arizona, which I thought was going to be a little bit closer, but as I'm sure you can tell, that one has more of a true red shimmer in a slightly deeper purple base, so they kind of have similar vibes, but not really dupes. Then for Worlock, we are bringing back Mooncat's Jewel Beetle, since this is what I immediately thought of when it came to these dupes. They looked really similar in the bottle for a second, but again, Mooncat has a little bit more of a true pink to orange shimmer head on, while it's a little bit more red in Worlock. And while they both shift to yellow and green in extreme lighting, I think it's just more color shifty overall in Mooncat. Up next for I Still Believe, this immediately reminded me of Mooncat's Cyborg as well as Ethereal's Cool Night, which was from the collaboration with Cracked Polish last winter. All three definitely have similar vibes in the bottle, but hopefully you can see at least that Mooncat is a little bit more of a sheer navy blue kind of base. I would say that Ethereal is much closer, being this really dark purple or almost indigo kind of color, but the shimmer in Ethereal to me looks a little bit more subtle. It just didn't seem as glowy as the Kathleen & Co. But all three still shift from red to orange to gold in extreme light. I also wanted to see how this compares to ILNP's Hallucinate, which is another deep blue-toned purple base with a red shimmer that shifts to gold in extreme lighting, but that has more of a large particle shimmer, and the purple base in that is even more blue-toned than Kathleen & Co., so not quite dupes, you know, similar vibes maybe, but I think they are pretty different. Then for Midlife Crisis, here's a quick bottle comparison to Fauve's Temperance, which is a blue metallic that just came out. It's definitely very different, not as teal leaning as Midlife Crisis. If anything, I thought maybe KBShimmer's Azure Wish, which is a magnetic, looked a little bit closer, at least when it comes to that shimmer color, but it is more of that brighter aqua to cobalt kind of blue, where you see more of that teal in Midlife Crisis. Next for Harvester of Sorrow, this one immediately reminded me of Mooncat's Mortals Be Warned, which is another deep purple kind of multi-chrome shade. That one I would say has more of a true black base compared to the red-toned purple of Kathleen & Co. And the shimmer, while very similar, is a little bit off, where it's not exactly a dupe, like the shade of purple is slightly different, or the shade of pinky orange, so very similar vibes, but not one-to-one dupes. So I thought I could also show this next to Mooncat's Epilogue to Utopia, which is a black-based magnetic, but I figured leaving it unmagnetized, the shimmer color might look kind of similar to Harvester of Sorrow, and it actually kind of does. It's just a little bit more blue or indigo in color, while also again having that true black base compared to the purple in Kathleen & Co. And while Epilogue also does shift to a pinky color in more extreme lighting, it's just not as vibrant or color shifty as what you see in Kathleen & Co. And lastly, for close to me, here it is next to Fauve's Crown of Flowers, which I recently reviewed. Funny enough, that one is also described as having a red base with a purpley pink kind of shimmer, but I'm sure you can tell that the Fauve is much brighter with its base, more red leaning, but still very hot pink in my eyes. So I thought maybe ILNP's Petals would be a little bit closer, but that one is also a very dark hot pink, so no dupes here. And lastly, I have Mooncat's Freshly Bitten, which is a deep kind of purple base with a purpley to red shifting multichrome shimmer. Obviously, it's a lot darker than Close to Me, so it's not anything close to a dupe, I would say. It just has a similar vibe with the shimmer, again going from purple to red. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Kathleen & Co.'s winter collection for 2025. As always, I would love to know your thoughts on this release because I thought they were really stunning. I only have tried a handful of Kathleen & Co. shades over my years, like, you know, dabbling into the indie polish world, but I have always loved their formulas and brushes, so it was just really nice to experience even more of that. So it's really nice to just see that across the board, her quality is just so consistent. Objectively speaking, these polishes are also really beautiful. They're all very shiny, glowy, shimmery, but as you might know, multichromes aren't really towards the top of my favorite when it comes to finishes. As expected, the purple and pinks were my favorites, but I would say the shimmers are the ones that are more interesting to me, with, of course, PS being the top favorite. You already know how I feel about Follow Your Dreams. I have been telling everybody and their mothers to get that polish when it came back for Rewind this year. So to see a sibling polish in this like slightly darker, more like wintry tone, I was just so excited. I think it is so stunning. So if you did miss out on Follow Your Dreams, or if for whatever reason you just didn't like that it was that slightly like brighter kind of shade, this is a beautiful option for a slightly deeper one. So if you are interested in any of these shades, they are going to be launching on November 19th, along with their holiday quad, which I am so sorry I did not have time to share in this video. I'm pretty sure Caitlin will have a review video for it, so make sure to check that out because they look really beautiful. And Mia will also be bringing back the multichrome quad from last year, as well as several other previous popular shades from other winter collections. Kathleen & Co. will also be doing their Black Friday sale on November 19th, and the sale pricing will be in effect until November 29th at 9 a.m. Everything on the site will be discounted except for individual mystery advent polishes, and for the first 12 hours of the sale, any orders of $75 or more will get a free gift with purchase. There should also be a doorbuster polish as well as some other early Black Friday sales going on, so I will have that information in a pinned comment or in the description box once I have it. But yeah, that pretty much covers it for this review video. Again, a big thank you to Kathleen & Co. for sponsoring it. It was just really surreal to have her reach out because I feel like even though, again, I don't have many in my collection, it is a brand that I have been following for a long time. I want to say close to 10 years now. So it was just really special and exciting for me. So I hope that you all enjoyed this review as much as I did. Make sure to leave me any and all thoughts you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!